China's President Xi Jinping has said the world faces a choice of peace or war as he watched a huge parade of Chinese military might flanked by Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Jong. It marks the first time the three leaders have been seen together. President Xi said that humanity was again faced with a choice of peace or war, and that common security could only be safeguarded when nations across the world treat each other as equals. Donald Trump has reacted to the meeting on social media, accusing the three presidents of conspiring against the US. The massive military parade commemorates 80 years since the formal surrender of the Japanese at the end of the Second World War. President Xi said his country is unstoppable and will never be intimidated by bullies as he unveiled China's arsenal of weapons, including nuclear missiles with global reach. Well, let's go live then to Beijing and my colleague Steve Lai, who's been covering these events. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. It's been a real show of military might here in Beijing. We heard the sound of jets overhead where we are as the parade showcased China's military capabilities on land, in the air and at sea as well. Among the notable new weaponry we've seen are laser weapons, nuclear ballistic missiles and giant underwater drones. China has also been investing in artificial intelligence and autonomous weapons. One example is the AJX-002. It's a giant 60-foot underwater nuclear-capable drone. China's nuclear arsenal number in the hundreds of missiles. It still lags far behind those of Russia and the US, but it is rapidly increasing in size, and that is perhaps the point to keep in mind. Now, as you've mentioned, President Xi was joined by 26 heads of state at this military showcase, including Russia's President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Jong as well. This is the first time Xi, Putin and Kim have met all together, and for more on the significance of that, let's go first to Stephen McDonald. He's in Beijing for us. Stephen, this event almost has even more significance on it because of the presence of Russia's leader Vladimir Putin, Jong as well as other world leaders.
Yes, I mean, it's very interesting. There they are up on the podium, standing next to one another, watching this vast military parade. And it was interesting what you mentioned about Xi Jinping's comments, like sort of cryptic, speaking about the choices the world was facing now, whether to go down the road of war or peace. I mean, he didn't say which theatre of war he might be speaking about. Is he referring to existing conflicts or the possibility of a much worse, broader conflict from breaking out? I mean, he spoke about how China, in defeating Japan in World War II, had emerged as a much stronger country that feared nobody. And I suppose the message is, don't try to threaten us, because, you know, you can see all that weaponry coming through. But not only that, there he is with his allies, Jong, Vladimir Putin, and others, the leaders of Belarus, Pakistan, Iran, and more than 20 other leaders, including one NATO member, Slovakia, represented. Massive symbolism there today. But of course, in China, according to some ordinary people, it is a funny old image to be showing. I mean, China wants to be portraying itself as a modern, sophisticated country. Does this look like it's stuck in another era with these Cold War-style mass military parades? Naturally, though, to others, full of national pride, they might think, look how strong we've become. Look at all that gear. Who can possibly touch us? So I guess it just depends what perspective you're coming at it from.
Yeah, that's right. And we do know that President Xi Jinping is expected to make another address. So if that does happen, we will cut to those images and hear what he has to say. But as you mentioned, I wouldn't say mixed messages, but he's been speaking very much about sort of the strength of China and playing up how strong it is and its place in the world, and that it isn't in a position, or it doesn't have any desire to be bullied, and wants to be treated as an equal in the eyes of the United States and other key leading players.
Yeah, and I mean, in a funny way, you know, part of the narrative of the Communist Party, apart from saying we took on Japan in World War II, it goes back further than that, that the imperial powers of Europe were pushing us around. Now we've arrived, this is our time, and we're not going to cop it anymore type thing. I mean, the funny thing is that China has long since past being a country that would be pushed around by others. It's in some ways strange that they keep sort of going on about this sort of thing. No one, as if anyone forgot, oh, gee, we thought we could push you around. Now we've seen that military parade, we won't. And yet, yeah, it does really ram it home when you see all that gear. I mean, the latest drones, which are going to be the future of naval warfare, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, the aircraft, the tens of thousands of goose-stepping soldiers moving past Tiananmen Square. Yeah, you're left in no doubt that China is a force to be reckoned with. But then again, I mean, who wouldn't know that? How could you possibly not? You'd have to have had your head in the sand not to realise that China has reached this point already.
Yeah, we'll speak to Jean in just a bit about North Korea's presence here with Kim Jong-un. But just a quick word on President Vladimir Putin being here from Russia. That war's still ongoing in Ukraine. In fact, there were air raid sirens going off in Ukraine while the parade was going on, with more attacks being waged over there by Russia. It really does show that Putin feels comfortable and in a safe place with China standing behind him or beside him.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the West, in many governments publicly declare that Vladimir Putin is a pariah following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There are a lot of places he can't go to. He doesn't get invited to the meetings he used to have. So when he turns up in China, and Xi Jinping has organised this array of leaders, first at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin over the weekend, and now in Beijing, he can have all these meetings, and he's been using those chances, sitting down, meeting leader after leader. The images of him here will be being broadcast back home in Russia, where he does look more like a statesman than a sort of war criminal. And it could be that he not only has a chance to meet with Xi Jinping again and Kim Jong-un again, but there's talk of the three of them having a meeting together. We've seen them up on the podium together, quite symbolic. And when all those leaders were walking through, obviously, I mean, in one way it's meant to look a bit sort of, oh, there we are just walking along the road. But of course it was choreographed, because the further you got to the back, it was the likes of Malaysia and Indonesia and the stands, Zimbabwe, Cuba. And then as you get closer to Xi Jinping, right next to him, there's Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, as if the three of them are leading this new anti-West world order. And for that reason, there is a lot of criticism of this gathering that, Xi Jinping is giving cover to authoritarians, to leaders who are sanctioned elsewhere, who are guilty of terrible war crimes, and yet that's all kind of swept under the carpet here with these promises of peace through strength, as Xi Jinping would put it, with, China now achieving this position as it has in the world, and saying that we can all be sort of getting on in a peaceful way. And as if to sort of change the message at the end, all these birds were released into Tiananmen Square at the end, a sort of peaceful looking imagery following all the tanks and missiles and the like. So I guess the Chinese government thinks that those two things are not irreconcilable.
Yeah, Stephen, thanks for getting us across those details from the parade. Stephen McDonald there in Beijing for us. And Jean McKenzie, we can bring her in now. She's our sole correspondent. Jean, North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, very much in the front row of the military parade today, sharing the photo opportunities and that walk, as we saw earlier, entering the Tiananmen Square and the parade grounds with or alongside Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. He seems very much at the top table, it would seem.
Absolutely, Steve. I mean, those images were so striking, right? I mean, we were expecting Kim Jong-un to be given this prominent position. We were anticipating it, but even still, to see him walking through Tiananmen Square right at the front there next to Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, and then sitting alongside them on the podium, the three of them talking throughout the parade very comfortably, getting along. This is a leader, the North Korean leader, who has for so long been isolated and been treated like an international pariah for his nuclear weapons program, for his human rights abuses. He's even been poked fun at. And here you have him today elevated to the same level, really, as these two incredibly powerful world players. And it is striking, really, even to see Kim Jong-un at an event like this at all. I mean, he has never been to an international event like this before. He is reclusive. He rarely leaves North Korea. When he does, it is to meet leaders one-on-one. So having him here today, front and centre stage, is remarkable. I think one of the motivations for Kim Jong-un to break with his tradition and to be here today would have been this opportunity to be put on this centre stage right at the same level as these two leaders like Mr. Xi and Mr. Putin, because this is not the sort of exposure that he is used to. And this moment would have been carefully choreographed by Mr. Xi, really an attempt to show the United States and the rest of the West that Russia, North Korea and China are now all united.
And do you think, Jean, that he'll take the opportunity while he's here in Beijing with so many other world leaders present as well, that he will be meeting with some of them, President Putin perhaps, so President Xi, you would assume that he would be having a sit-down with him?
He will absolutely be wanting to sit down with these leaders, having come all the way to Beijing. We don't yet have details of whether he is going to be able to sit and have those bilateral meetings. It is expected that he will meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin. We're still waiting to hear about whether he would sit down together with Mr. Xi and Mr. Putin to get, all three of them together. This is the first time that Xi, Putin and Kim have actually ever all been together. So they may well want to take that opportunity. Mr. Kim, we think, who also has come to Beijing today, not only to be a part of this big spectacle and this parade, but as an attempt to rekindle his relationship with China. Because over the past couple of years, we've seen him really focus on his relationship with Vladimir Putin and with Russia, because he has been supporting Putin's war in Ukraine by sending him soldiers, sending him weapons, and in return getting, we think, vast amounts of money. But traditionally, it is China that has been North Korea's most important ally. China has kept North Korea afloat. And over the past couple of years, because of this relationship between Kim and Putin, we have seen the North Korea-China relationship become a little bit strained. And South Korea's intelligence agency, certainly, they have assessed this trip today, thinking that that Mr. Kim wants to come and try to rebalance these relationships a bit, to try to secure some economic support from Beijing, probably aware that the war in Ukraine is not going to last forever. And so the financial support he has been getting from Putin may not last forever either. So I think sitting down with Xi Jinping will be one of his top priorities.
And Jean, it's a hard question to answer, but what next for Kim Jong-un? Now we know he's here for this military parade. We do also know that President Trump has voiced his ambition to meet with with leader Kim again relatively soon. He said as much during his sit-down in the White House with South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung. Do you see that as something that could be on the cards? They have met before, and by all accounts from President Trump, they do get along.
They have met before. Those negotiations, though, they broke down back in 2019. They couldn't agree on a plan to get North Korea to give up some of its nuclear weapons. And ever since, North Korea has rejected all attempts by the US to talk. Even the recent attempts under this Trump administration, we understand the North Koreans have not responded to. Now, whether Mr. Kim will want to take Trump up on his offer to meet again, we just don't know. But something analysts are saying about this event here today and Mr. Kim's appearance is that by showing him in this sort of elevated position, from this position of strength, that could be an opportunity really for the North Koreans to be showing Donald Trump and the United States that he is in a much stronger position than he was last time they met back in 2019. He has been developing his nuclear weapons program ever since. His weapons are more sophisticated, they're more advanced. He now has, as we're seeing, the backing of Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. And so perhaps North Koreans are hoping that if they were to sit down with Donald Trump in the near future, this would all buy him a bit of bargaining power because he's very clear now, Kim Jong-un and North Korea, that his nuclear weapons are really not up for discussion, that North Korea has no intention of abandoning its nuclear program. So if Trump and Kim were to meet, I think it would be on very different terms this time around.
Jean, thanks very much, as always, for getting us across these details. Stephen as well, Stephen McDonald in Beijing and Jean McKenzie in Seoul.